DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. The Utah Jazz are back at it tonight. Charlotte's in town, a completely winnable game. Charlotte with 13 wins on the year, 13-41. They have got one of the 4 worst records in the NBA. And they moved a couple of guys at the trade deadline, so they don't even know the guys who helped them win the measly 13 games. They have, however, won 3 in a row.
Measly.
So it doesn't, 13's a measly total.
I agree.
But they have won 3 in a row, so that doesn't make any sense either. So to help us make sense of all of that, Mike Smith joins us. You can see him on TV, Jazz pre, half, and post. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, boys. How are we doing?
Good. We're putting money in your pocket, Mike.
How's that?
Aren't you involved in some pizza places?
Oh, yeah. Mountain Mike's Pizzas, yeah.
PK and I made a run to St. George for a little winter golf. Just a quick 2-day trip, 27 holes.
Oh.
And
you went to the Hurricane store.
Exactly. And after we drove down there after the show and we played 9, and there was a Jazz game that night, so we bought your pizza, we ate your pizza, and we watched you on TV. Mike, I don't know how much more support you can expect out of us.
That's amazing. No,
Yeah.
that store is doing really well, and we love our pizza. We think it's done the right way, and cooked with fresh dough every day and vegetables. So hopefully you liked it.
Yep.
All good.
Now that we've got the pizza business out of the way, let's get to the Utah Jazz and the Charlotte Hornets. And when I watch you on TV or when I hear you on the radio, you usually come with some stats and where teams rank and what they're good at and what they're not. And so I know that, and it's not just the high profile, the Warriors are coming, I'll look up some numbers. You do. I know you're following this stuff. So explain to us how Charlotte, a bad team, makes a couple of deadline trades saying, forget it, we're about the future, we're tearing down what little bit we have here and rebuilding. And yet they had a 3-game win streak before the All-Star break. That doesn't really make any sense on the surface. Can you make sense of it?
Well, as a result of the moves, their bench got a lot deeper. So it's probably the best bench that Coach Steve Clifford has ever had there in Charlotte. And this is his second go-around. He's a North Carolina guy. I think Michael Jordan liked him initially and liked him a second time, but now the ownership has changed, right? They got 2 new owners in there. And what they realized was we need to make not just a change, it's a culture change. They needed to move some pieces and get out of the status quo. So they moved Terry Rozier, they moved Gordon Hayward, they moved P.J. Washington. That's a series of 3 moves, not unlike what the Jazz have done. In other words, to a lesser degree, the Hornets, I think the last 2 seasons were just on the brink of being, they were in a play-in game and then immediately removed. And so this new ownership felt like, okay, not only do we need to not be there, we need to start over. And if that means new picks, if that means assets, if that means rebuilding, so that's exactly what they're doing. As a result of moving those 3 players, as I said, their bench got better. They got Seth Curry, Steph's little brother. They got Grant Williams, and they got some assets. And in addition to that, they created room or opportunity for some of their young studs to really shine. And the one who's really taken off in the last 10 games is this Brandon Miller. He's out of Alabama. He's the second pick in the draft. I think he's averaged almost 24 a game the last 10. And amazingly, I looked at the numbers, just their last 3 games, which they won, the 3 having lost the previous 10 and having won only 5 road games all year. This is a team that was in a dismal way. Their points are up 10 points a game. Their assists are up 4 assists. Their 3-point shooting is up. Their field goal percentage these last 3 games has been 55%. And they're scoring, whereas they were scoring 110 before and giving up 119, now they're scoring 119. And so they feel like they're in every game. And I think the whole impetus of it all was we need to make a culture change. This is a fan base that has loved this team for years. And that team's given them very little back. And so I feel like new ownership's like, okay, we're going to rebuild around this Brandon Miller stud, and hopefully LaMelo Ball get healthy, and we'll go from there. But we need to do something for them. And anyway, that's kind of the gist of what's going on there. It's not that far removed from what we're seeing here in Utah.
With that in mind, what we're seeing here in Utah is the trades had a negative effect upon the team, and there was some hangover effect, but then they had the nice game against the Warriors, even though they lost. And they've got some winnable games, at least record-wise, as they come out of the break. How much or what level of importance do you think is on these next few games in terms of winning to set the tone for the final 26?
PK, it's a good question. I think it's been very transparent and very clear what Ryan and Danny and Justin are aiming to do. And so if this has been, talked about on your show, too much, then stop me. But they just don't want to skip steps along the way to build this into a champion. And I think Justin made it very clear. We just don't want to be good for a year or two and contend for a minute. We want to be good for a while. And it's really hard to do. It takes luck. It takes, a lot of skill. It takes great development. And then it takes some savvy, clever moves. So it takes a lot of those things. I look back to an OKC team who rebuilt this thing or is now contending for a second time. That's really hard to do. The greatest move that Sam Presti made is not only trading for Paul George, but then re-signing Paul George. Because the re-signing of Paul George, getting him to commit to Oklahoma City, allowed him to then move him later for Shai Gilgeous and 5 picks, right? So those picks are now starting to yield the fruits and benefits of an OKC team, which is arguably first, second, or third best in the West. That's what the Jazz are aiming to do. Golden State also did it, an 8-year run where they win 4 titles and get a couple other trips to the finals. That's amazing. But they did it mostly through the draft, right? Got a little bit lucky with a second-round pick named Draymond Green and got a little bit, Stephen Clare like the 7th and the 11th picks, but created the best shooting backcourt in the history of the game. Okay, those weren't the first and second picks. So you can do it with mid to high first-round picks. So it takes all that. Now you still got to go do it, right? So I think what the Jazz are doing, they're identifying what we have, who are keepers, who are we building around, who are the foundational pieces of this franchise as we build this thing slowly and surely and without missing steps until we contend. And so the aim right now is to play Taylor Hendricks and to play Keontae George and to see the progress of a Walker Kessler while we already recognize the greatness of a Lauri Markkanen. We got to find out what we have, what our next steps are. All that being said, that's why the trades were made, right? If we can accumulate a couple of assets, create opportunities for these guys to grow and play, that's what we're going to do. But given all that, PK, you're spot on, right? They've lost 4 in a row. They've, have a great home record at 17-10, but have lost the last 3. It's time to really come out and play. And I think the defense really took a hit when those trades were made. So those last games before the deadline, there were different lineups and different trust factors with guys on the court. Fontecchio, although a streaky shooter and hit and miss offensively, was a really good defender, lengthy and bothered people. And so you move a couple pieces, and there's always going to be a little bit of a downfall. So hopefully a break, some practice, some renewed energy, they come back, get after Charlotte and San Antonio before they hit those 3 on the road.
What should Markkanen be adding at this point in his career? Is he a finished product? Is there something more you want to see out of him? What can we expect over the final third of the season?
A lot of people felt like he was snubbed All-Star game, right? His numbers are fantastic. So very much like the numbers he had a year ago. So last year, 25 a game. This year, 23 and a half. The rebounds are the same. The assists are the same. The shooting percentages are scarily identical. Almost 50% from 2 and 40% from 3 and 88%. He's super efficient player. The one thing I looked at when I look at all the guys who did get an all-star pick and he didn't from the coaches, they all averaged 4 assists or more, 3.8 or higher. And Lauri's never been a gifted passer. Now, that's not a knock on him. It's not a bad thing. It's just kind of his DNA. I feel like you're either a a passer who sees those angles or you aren't. You can get better within the realm, but it's rare. Like a guy 6 years into his career has never averaged 2 assists. All of a sudden, hey, go be a 4 or 5 assist guy. That won't happen. So, like, if you were nitpicking, you'd say, okay, Lowry needs to do that. But I just don't think that's part of him, and it doesn't even matter to me. If I'm running this team, I wouldn't, be giving Lowry instructions to become a great passer. I think he's great. I don't know what he needs to work on. Maybe a little more of a post-up game, and the Jazz are starting to implement that a little bit. Like, you'll see him run this little middle screen and roll, where with a point guard, Lowry will come set this pick, and oftentimes he slips it and jumps to the three, and he's developed a beautiful chemistry with Keontae to just catch and shoot, and he's like number 1 or number 2 in the league in catch and shoot points per game. That's how quick he gets rid of it and how much of a threat he is. But oftentimes he'll set the pick, and then he'll just curl or roll, and he doesn't roll to the rim. He just rolls to the foul line. Now he's got the guard on him. They throw the ball to him. That right there, I think, can become his bread and butter. Like, he's 7 foot tall. Right now, I view him as like the most unique small forward 7-footer we've ever had. Like, he's way different than Dirk. Right? Lowry's about to hit 200 threes again for the second year in a row. Dirk never made more than 151 in one season. So when we make those comparables, everyone's like, wait, Dirk was a 7-footer who shot. Yeah. Dirk was a power forward who could step out and shoot the occasional three. 151 is the most he made this season. Lowry made 200 last year, on pace for another 200. But I would love to see him just, like, become this guy where you could, get a mismatch, switch in the post, and he's got an array of post moves that all of a sudden you're like, wow, this guy is unguardable. So, for what it's worth, that's kind of what comes to mind.
You talk about foundation pieces and how this last portion of the next 2 months is a form of discovery, and I buy all that. With that in mind, what type of piece do they have in Sexton?
He's unique, right? He's different. Okay, so he's a guy who's never averaged 4 assists in a game, right? His first 3 years in the league, he comes to the Jazz, you look at his numbers, he's a 20-point-a-game career scoring average guy. I think there's only 64 guys in league history that have 20 points a game or higher. Now, last year he averaged 14.3. This year he's up to 17.8, right? So it's dropped a tick below 20. So he is a scorer first and a physical guard. There's a place for Colin. There's a place for Colin going forward on this team. He plays with incredible intensity and energy. It's oftentimes game-changing energy. So you could be down and he could force an 8-second call, or he could, get you 4 buckets in a row. And his energy is infectious. So I love that about him. Now, given the assist thing that I just went through with Lowry, here's a guy who has not been a natural passing point guard like anybody. A Rubio, Keontae's a little bit built that way. I'm just trying to think of Jazz history. Stockton, of course, the best of the best. But he's taken his assists from 3. Now you look at his starts, which are like 29, I think, or 30. It's like 5. It's over 5. So this is a guy who is capable of learning and adapting and adjusting, and when given the charge or being held accountable by a young, fiery coach, can alter habits. I like that. So I don't think we've seen the best of him. Like, you look at his starts, it's either 29 or 30. And if it's 30, I think we're 19 and 11, something like that in his starts. But his numbers are 21 a game and 5 assists, and the shooting percentages are almost 50, 40, and 85. Like, you'd take those numbers from any starting guard. So I like him. His contract is not exorbitant. It's not huge. And I think it's this year, and I don't know if it's 2 more this year and the next year, but Not even suggesting that you move him. He could be one of your foundational pieces, given his age and given his ability to adapt, learn, and grow.
So what you're saying on Markkanen's passing is he's no Ali Khalifa?
Yeah, that guy was pretty good on Saturday.
Tuesday
night, against Baylor, right? Made 3 threes in a row, and he just, I give him a lot of credit. And what I really like is Mark Pope's system, the intricacy of these cuts and these moves had Baylor so perplexed in the second half. They're getting layups in the half court because all this movement and backdoors and circular cuts. I coached these little 6th graders, and then I coached 9th graders, so I got 3 teams. And I've taken 2 of the plays, like this, like cut off a clip off of YouTube and said, okay, I'm going to give that to my guys. And anyway, it's some really cool stuff. And BYU's been surprising, at least in the Big 12, right? Like, I don't know that we thought that. I thought maybe 9-9 would be their best. They got a chance to do better than that.
Given the last couple of years in the WCC, there was really no way to predict they would do this in the Mountain West. In the Big 12. I'm going backwards.
Yeah.
There's no reason to think they do it in the Big 12, and yet here they are. And there have been a lot of good tests, and they've passed a bunch of them. So, well, Mike,
what's great is they don't have like an amazing player. Like that maybe is the greatest part of this story this year. I know 12-1 before they get to the season, but you look at them and you say there's not one guy who's great, right? They're all good, and they all defend, they all pass, they all shoot. It's really the beauty of teamwork.
Well, Mike, we will continue to eat your pizza. I watch you on TV. I don't think you're eating your pizza. You're staying skinny. What are you doing? You're clearly passing on the pizza I was throwing down. There's a reason I'm not a skinny guy, and it's all that pizza.
Oh gosh, I don't know. I drink a product called Cardio Miracle, which improves every bodily function. I think that's one thing. I drink that at night instead of like munching on ice cream, and what really helps me, because I'm almost 60. That's no fun, but I'm almost 60, and I still want to compete at golf at a high level. But I go see a guy named Craig Bueller. He's the guy that kept Stockton and Hornacek and Malone healthy all those years. And his Bueller Athletic is all about muscle activation. So all of us in our age range, DJ, I know PK loves to golf. I love to golf and stay active and play pickleball. If you're not seeing somebody regularly who can just fine-tune whatever muscles aren't firing that particular week, you could get a little off. And a little off becomes way off in a month. And then like in 2 months, the body is so smart, you got other muscles compensating to do the jobs they're not supposed to do. And then you get a little, I don't know, you just get a little ski-wampus. And so I go see him. He keeps me going great. That's about it. That's all I do. I don't have any bad habits, so there.
Ski-wampus, is that S-K-I-W or is that S-K-E-E-W? I got to look that up during the break. That gave me something to do. All right, thank you.
No idea.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate it.
Okay, boys. Have a great one.
Mike Smith, Utah Jazz analyst. You will see him on TV for Jazz games before, halftime, and then after in the post-game show. Thought you might want to talk to him about Freeze It.
I forgot. That. Fetch, why didn't you tell me?
He's going to be on again. Doesn't matter. Mike comes on semi-regularly.
Yeah. I was just caught up in the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's only so many jokes. You know, timing is everything.
Right.
And the Ali Khalifa, because I did think you were going to say Freeze It, but I thought, no, it's better to go with that because that was more topical.
Yeah.
That won't be funny in a month.
Right, exactly.
So, DJ and PK, it is 97.5 The Zone. Freeze It when we come back. Everything you missed in this show, 3.5 hours worth of football and basketball, and that is because if you missed it, this guy, I mean, it sounds good, but it isn't going to last. There's no way. It isn't going to work. He's up against too much, but man, he's saying all the right things anyway. That's next. Stay with us.
Accessing This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
Mark Harlan, athletic director at the University of Utah. I would have bet that the Big 12 would have had you and BYU playing the final weekend of the season. They've got you playing on November 9th. Is that something that you guys liked or preferred?
Don't ever want to speak for Tom, but where I was on it was that I wasn't wedded to it, and I want to maximize it for television because the Holy War deserves it. So I just told the Big 12, and obviously Tom was in agreement, that let's just put it at a place that's great. You know, we're aspirational to be in Dallas at that championship game. I'm sure BYU is too. And, maybe playing that rivalry game quickly was in my mind. But at the end of the day, if they put it there, we would have said, let's go. But I think, what we said was we're not wedded to that. And folks were maybe for that or against that in the community. But, I think it's just a few weeks before that now, right where it fell. And I imagine it'll be a real primetime type telecast.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Why do people take social media so serious? Like,
but why you don't follow the Bears?
This and that. Like, I still mess with the Bears. This and that. I'm just trying to take a little break. I'm following the Bears and the NFL, bro. I'm not just trying to have football on my timeline. Like, I know y'all mess with a girl, EQ, especially you. Just because you don't follow the girl on IG, don't mean you're not messing with them.
That's Bears quarterback Justin Fields right there. It is time for the 9 a.m. Slacker Radio headlines brought to you by Tim Dahle Mazda Southtown. Find your new Mazda at the south end of the valley at Tim Dahle Mazda Southtown. That's Tim Dahle Mazda Southtown in Sandy. Justin Fields went on to say that basically he unfollowed the Bears and the NFL because he finds the whole thing about his future exhausting. He just wants it resolved and done. The Bears will do what they'll do. They'll trade him or they won't. He doesn't have control over that. He basically just wants to get past this time where it's in limbo until it's done and know where he's playing.
They've got the top pick, and Caleb Williams is out there, right? And so do you go with Caleb Williams? Is he a generational player? Remains to be seen, and I don't care how good he was in college, and he was good and all that stuff, no doubt about it. I would say that I understand the Bears might want to trade him if they take Williams, but if I'm another team out there who needs a quarterback, and I think the price is right, I think Justin Fields can develop. I think I've seen enough of him to think that there's something there. I saw enough of him in college, and I've seen enough of him at the NFL level to think that in the right situation, you can win with him. I don't think his book is done written and he's a bust or he's a backup. I want to see him still develop because I think there's an opportunity there. Now, the Caleb Williams thing in Yak, we need to get what's-his-face on, Hodge, because he went after Williams and said he's not that. And then they played the thing, and Hodge just comes into a room like, I'm the most confident person in this room, and you need to shut up.
Are you referring to Merrill Hodge here?
Merrill Hodge, yes.
Not Bo, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is the only Hodge I know.
Okay, but usually on first reference you say somebody's first name, and that's who I thought you were talking about. But
Hodge. He was the former commentator.
Former Steeler, former ESPN commentator.
And his opinions are so strong, and then everybody plays I've seen the clip where he says
Johnny Manziel.
He's going to be a bust. He's not very. He sucks. And then he also had who did he have over Clowney? It was another defensive end type player. He said that guy's going to be way better. So he's got a track record.
He's gone against the grain and been right.
Yeah, and then he plays, and then he's talking with what's his face, Bayless, who thinks, and then he says that, with all due respect, sir, Manziel is going to be this and that, and obviously he sucked. He was a bust. He wanted to party. He wasn't. I don't know even if he didn't want to party if he was good enough.
I never thought he was. I thought he was a college quarterback the way he ran around. The NFL wants guys who drop back. Everything's perfectly timed. You plant the back foot, you throw the ball in.
And
Johnny,
what does
Johnny
Williams
Football didn't do it.
What does Caleb Williams do?
Caleb runs around.
So what do you got there?
Yeah, I get why.
But Lamar Jackson is not a pure drop back pocket dude.
100%.
And he's the MVP, deservedly so. So what do you got there? It's an interesting situation for the Bears.
I think you're right about the Bears, also because they're going to have to pay big money. Now, the teams who don't have anybody and who don't have access to anybody, I think you're right that trading for Fields is a decent bet. And I get some teams won't want to do it, but because at least 10 and probably closer to 15 teams need a long-term answer at quarterback, whether it's Atlanta, whether it's Pittsburgh, whether it's the Jets or the Giants or the Raiders. I mean, you run through a whole list of teams. Maybe the Seahawks. You run through a whole list of teams that might be interesting.
Kansas City?
The Bears, nope. The Bears can find somebody to trade with, and then if they don't think Caleb's a guy, well, then go with May. I mean, there's supposed to be a whole bunch of quarterbacks who
why
might be
wouldn't you
great.
stay with Fields and let him develop?
Because you think the other guys have a better chance of hitting it
you
big,
need to know.
And they're less expensive. Well, it's
not
quarterback
about thinking at this level.
But I don't think you get to know.
They have
you
to.
You can say you know, but you know NFL GMs don't know.
They better know.
They miss all the time, so they don't.
With the number 1 pick, better know.
You're right. You better. I agree with that, because if you take Jamarcus Russell and it blows up, it's going to cost you your career. So you better know.
That's
but
what I'm saying.
The fact is, I don't believe they do. I'm pretty sure he's the guy, and I got to pick somebody, so I'm going with this guy. Man, I hope it works out. I think there's a lot of that going on.
Is Williams a slam dunk great quarterback?
No, he's not. Not a slam dunk
great quarterback. But yet last year we thought he was, not this past season, but the year before.
Agreed.
If he would have come out, he would have been the number 1 pick.
Absolutely.
Both
and he's
years,
still,
and he couldn't come out last year.
He still may be the number 1 pick. No, but if he could come out last year,
right.
he would have been slam dunk number 1.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a slam dunk now, but I still think he can end up number 1.
I still think he's going to go number 1.
Right, but it's not a slam dunk. I can even say the odds are there, but it's not 100%.
It's a lay-in off the glass.
Okay, but not a slam dunk. This year put some doubt. This year put some doubt in some people's minds.
Not enough to be removed from number 1.
That may well be. Yeah, I agree with that. I still think it's
unless there was
60,
some
40,
type
70,
of trade
30.
involved, and you traded it to a team that didn't already has a quarterback, but they wanted somebody. They wanted Harrison Jr. I know,
right.
But whatever. I mean, I agree. It won't happen. But that's other than that, he's going number 1, and then we'll see how it plays out.
And they got Raider coach Antonio Pierce saying the team's embracing their inner bad boy Detroit Pistons when they face Patrick Mahomes moving forward. He said, we got the Jordan rules, and what I'm calling now, for as long as I'm here, the Patrick Mahomes rules. Okay, you can talk about stopping the Chiefs and blah, blah, blah. But if someone's going to stop the Chiefs in that division, and I think they've won the division, is it a decade straight yet, Yak? It's getting close. Is it 8 or 9, 10? And look it up.
I want to say 8.
8.
Well, nothing's going to start them. It's going to be boredom or injury.
But if one of the other 3 teams gets better, it's not going to be the Raiders. It's going to be Harbaugh. It's going to be Harbaugh turning the Chargers around.
Well, I mean, what's his face? Herbert is a good start.
Right.
I think if I'm Mahomes and Andy Reid, no less than a 40-point beatdown both times.
just blow them out.
Yes.
Don't talk like that. Do not talk about hurting our guy.
Yeah.
They were already upset. They remember the Raiders took that victory lap around Kansas City when they won that game out there.
I mean, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes,
snot out of them.
They're already massive heroes in Kansas City, but there's nothing you can do wrong in Kansas City by piling on the Raiders. That's just, I don't know. But I don't know how much more beloved they could be in that area.
If you have a chance to score late to go up by 30, do it.
And then point at that's for you.
Yeah.
Big mouth.
I don't think this Pierce thing is going to work. Now, granted, I hate the guy.
It's Arizona State. You got a bad vibe after the way things ended for your Sun Devils in the previous regime.
Well, they only put him in the worst position they've been in.
And he was right in the middle of it. Yeah.
So what do you expect me to do? Embrace him?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
I don't hate him as much as Herm.
Herm is peak enemy number 1 because he hired him.
He's up there lying about Brock Purdy.
No, there's no need for that.
And then his high school coach
comes out and it's like, no.
He wasn't recruited.
You didn't recruit
I think
him.
you offered him like a walk-on late or something.
Coming late with your preferred walk-on.
And he would have gone. That's why I don't root against him. A lot of those kids who spurn us, I root against them, but not him. If you didn't get offered, it's on them. It's not on you.
One more football thing. The college football approved the 5+7 format, and they're going to have a 12-game playoff in 24 and 25, which is very interesting, and we will get to that. But in 26, they're already working on a 14-team playoff.
Why does that make you laugh?
And,
that seems like a no-brainer.
Stuart Mandel, in case you missed it, college football playoff commissioners are considering mucking up a good thing before the good thing even starts. 3 years of backstabbing and money grabbing will do that.
I disagree completely.
Well, you don't completely disagree.
How is it not improving a good thing?
I think it's the SEC and the Big Ten thinking, what are we giving you guys buys for now? Why don't you go?
What?
You go out there. You go out there and play more games and make us more money, and
great.
We'll still keep buys for our teams because our teams are going to be 1 and 2.
Yeah. Well, and if they should be 3 and 4, so be it.
They won't be. The whole thing is just so fixed to help them. It's just,
I mean, how's that ever changed? How's that any different? Why is it such a good thing? It wasn't a good thing before, but now it's a good thing? It's always been that. The reason why they're advantages is because they spare no expense. Go win at all costs, and you'll probably win.
Yep.
And have it be the most important thing in your life and in your community. Sorry, Anthony Rendon.
That actually comes first. That leads to the win at all costs thing.
Well, it all ties together.
It does. It does all tie together.
Yeah, I mean,
but in
look
Columbus,
at the NFL draft, where are the players coming from in the majority? From those places.
In Columbus and Tuscaloosa, they are living and dying with this stuff.
So why do you scoff at it as if it's so cynical?
I think it's hilarious.
You get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And they're winning at all costs. And I've been to both those places. The facilities are off the charts and blah, 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 blah. All right. Okay.
You don't think it's funny to see them getting called out for backstabbing and money grabbing when they're the ones who have been up there saying student athletes and irritating you?
When hasn't it been this way? That's my point. Yeah. Stewart is acting like it's something brand new. When hasn't it been this way? I've been eyeball deep in this, not so much more, but in my prior years as a
in the
beat
90s,
guy.
In the 90s and 2000s.
And even before.
When you were traveling and sitting next to players and hearing stories about, don't bring your books on the road.
This is... Yeah. I mean, a lot of people think that I say stuff negative about their programs. Maybe 10% of what I know and what I've heard. All the stuff that I've heard over the years. And people know when they tell me it goes nowhere. So they trust me. And there you go. But I don't see Mandel's point. How different is it than it was? It's always been like that.
But changing the system before the system even starts?
I look at it improving the system. Why, if you know it's going to expire in 2 years, why wait? Why not start trying to get better now?
How will you know that? How do you know that that's better? Do you really think teams 13 and 14 are going to hang, or are there going to be more blowouts?
I get your point because you're leading me on there. But, yeah, sure. But if it makes more money...
It is going to make more money.
Then who cares? It's about... everything is money-driven.
And they want more money. They've got more teams in the league.
Why is Washington's tennis team going to friggin' Rutgers?
Because the
football team makes money.
They're married to an old idea that all the teams need to be in the same league with all the other teams on campus.
Chip Kelly said it.
Seattle to Piscataway. Let's go.
I've made
every
that
league's
trip.
doing it now. Yeah, I mean we can bag on the Big Ten, but it's going to be,
of course,
Phoenix to Orlando is going to be the Big 12, and the ACC is going to be San Francisco to Boston.
At least there they'll get reasonable rates because warm to warm in the winter is not as expensive as cold to warm. Think about that.
There's less supply and demand, right? Yeah, the whole supply and demand thing.
Chip Kelly, what he said was right.
Yep. Now he's off to Ohio State to join the evil empire.
Right, and I hope they suck.
We talked a lot of Jazz this morning, 26 games to go. Players to improve. Do they want to keep the draft pick? Where they have the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th worst record? Where's this going to end up?
26 games. That's the distance in miles from San Pedro to Catalina. Isn't that ironic?
I did not know that. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I haven't even looked that up.
26 miles across the sea.
All right,
Catalina is waiting for you and me.
I've never been to Catalina.
Well, it's an island out there.
I know that, yes.
Oh, yeah.
All those years in Southern California, I never went.
We'll drive over there.
When we come back, your feedback next, and a lot of it is about the Jazz and what you expect in these last 2 months. Stay with us.
And it's all over almost here.
Don't go nowhere.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. It's time for your feedback. The All-Star break is over. What do you expect from the Utah Jazz the rest of the way? The dog saying, well, I'm just hoping next year we play hard again, only to be disassembled at the trade deadline. There's a lot of fans just not happy with that at all.
No, I think Yak played Black Eyed Peas tonight. It's going to be a good night on purpose because it's game night. I know what he's doing over there. Let's live it up. Let's see. It is Laurie Marketing I Am tonight. That's what we got going.
Cheese Fry says, I'm not expecting anything from the Utah Jazz, so I'll be watching the Runnin' Utes basketball.
The women play tonight against UC Los Angeles on prime time, 7:30 our time, 7 o'clock on ESPN.
Big time.
That is great exposure for the women. Good for them, man.
They've had enough games regionalized on the Pac-12 network this year. It's about time they got one of these.
Oh, yeah, and then they'll have an away game that against Washington that's only available on the Pacific thing.
Yeah.
What the crap?
I know, and it's happened multiple times this year. For those of us trying to get highlights, we were sitting at a Jazz game, multiple people from multiple stations all talking about the Pac-12 network and how much they suck.
But for those of us who don't have an agenda that involves money and just want to watch the game, for those of us getting highlights so I can make money work, look at you. I see your motivation. My motivation is pure. I want to see, how do you say Inez's name again?
I'm not telling you now after that rant.
Well, it's true.
No, you're in it. Why don't you figure it out? You know, you were sitting right there. You heard her. Team playing's over. I'm not going to take all this abuse and then provide you with pronunciations of Anish Vietta's name. Oh, dang it. Nice, huh?
Because she's got a good personality, as
Big
most
time.
women college athletes do, my experience.
Yeah.
Much, by and large, we're just speaking generally here, but they tend to be way better interviews. Now, that's a rough generalization, but that's covering women's sports at a high level. I've covered professional sports, I've covered college sports, I've covered high school sports, and it seems like they do better interviews, and she was a great interview. And so, yeah, I'm going to be watching that tonight. I'm going to be flicking back and forth, but I'm going to be watching it. The Utah women have captivated me the last couple years.
Number 18, Utah. Number 12, UCLA. Utah going for their 20th win. UCLA's already got 20. And they're both playing for seeding the tournament.
And then they got the SC,
point.
and this Watkins gal is one heck of a player.
They follow up one big game with another big game with another big game because they just beat Colorado, who was top 10. UCLA was top 10. They lost a game and dropped to 12.
Well, that's because the conference is so stinking
conference is
tough.
loaded. Half the conference has been ranked this year. It's literally 6 out of 12 teams, week after week. And they're all going to be seeded to win a game, and it wouldn't be surprised if 4 or 5 of them are in the Sweet 16. Wouldn't be surprising at all. That's 7:30 on ESPN tonight, so if you're looking for something to flip back and forth during the Jazz game, there you go. Got a couple options tonight. Jazz, 7 o'clock. What do you expect from the Jazz the rest of the way? Utah Football Gym. I just need them to win by 10-plus points tonight, David.
Uh-oh.
Somebody's got a few quid on the game.
I would never do that. that would just make me too nervous. I couldn't enjoy the game. But that's why I love going to the sports books and
watching people suffer and celebrate.
Yeah, it's fun.
All right, DJ and PK.
Mehmet Okur coming up.
Mehmet Okur with Jake and Ben.
I've golfed with them.
Yeah, but we don't get to talk to him because Mehmet doesn't get up that early in the morning. He's just getting rolling now. He'll talk with Jake and Ben next. Stick around right here on The Zone.